All right, welcome back. Today's going to be another design day, I guess. It's, I really enjoyed last video because that was just, I don't know, designing the sort of stuff, like design in general, I think is something that I really enjoy. Um, but, and that's what I really like about the idea of like building something yourself like this, because there's so many parts of it that I like. I not only do I like the programming part, granted now it's like mostly prompting, but I do like the programming part, and I like building, twisting, like figuring out, like solving the puzzle of like what is going on, what's wrong, and how do you either make it look better or how do you fix whatever is going on. And that's part of like the programming side of things. But programming, I think a lot of people don't really realize how much or how creative programming is. I would not have thought of that when I started out, because when I was younger, I assumed that to be a programmer, you had to be like a math wizard and you had to almost be like a genius. You'd have to think in numbers and binary. And it was one of those things that just like, if you didn't start when you were 5 years old, you would never be able to learn it. And then at 25, I think, is when I started and learned how to code. And I realized that it was super hard. And I thought it was like, this is impossible. Like, it's really hard. But then diving slightly more deep into it, realizing that like, okay, it's actually not hard at all to learn how to code. Like literally universities do one course for 1 month and you're expected to basically learn how to code in that month. So genuinely, it's not hard to learn how to code. It's hard to get really good at it, obviously, like anything, but getting the basics down, like being able to build an app, that you probably can do that within a month, depending on your life circumstances and all that stuff. And it's very creative, especially when you're doing like both front end and back end. Like back end, not as creative, I would say, but it's still like there's some creative aspects to it that you wouldn't guess as an outsider or like non-programmer. But what I really enjoy is the combination of all of these things. Like, first of all, I have to design the app, so I know that like, what am I trying to build here? And I like trying to figure that out. I'm not good at it necessarily, but I really like the process of like, this is what it looks like, this is where that button is supposed to go, and all of that stuff. And once you have that down, then you need to code it, and then you start coding it, you start building it, you bring it to life, you create something that actually is usable, which is really cool. And then you can tweak things. You can be like, oh, well, maybe the button should be further down, and maybe when you press it, something else should happen, or whatever. And then you get to the point of like combining the back end stuff, and then once the app is kind of complete, which it is now, at least complete enough, then you get to the point where it's like, okay, you have to figure out, how do we market this thing? What font are we going to use for the app? Like, do we have a font that's going to be representing our brand or whatever? What's the style going to be like? Like for the ads, the promo things, like it has to be cohesive and it has to make sense. And all of that stuff I really enjoy. So that's why it's kind of hard for me when sometimes when you get to the point where an app is kind of finished, because then it's like you're no longer in that like explosive almost stage of like creating new things and adding this, adding that, making everything happen, redesigning things. You sort of get to a more stale place where you're like, okay, I need to fix this little bug here, and it's not as much fun. So I think I'm probably most well adapted to the starting stage of like pushing something into existence and not great at the rest of it. Although I've never really tried the rest of it, so because I've usually like just stopped after the app is, or the first version of an app is completed. So that's the challenge for this whole series, is to continue this, because I'm not gonna, I don't see any reason for stopping at this stage. Because there's so many things that's like, I don't know, there's so many things that I know in my head that like I'll need to try this before I give up on the idea. Right now it's not even released yet, so I'm not thinking about giving up on it, but I don't know, I have like 10 or I don't know how many things that I'm like, okay, that's something that I want to try, that's something that I want to try, and if that doesn't work, we can try this, and if that doesn't work, we can try this. So I don't really know how long that time span will be where I will like keep trying new things to get it to be popular or used, or an app that people use. Because you have to have strategies for that. You have to have ideas for how. It's great that you have an app. It's great, and I have some people watching these videos, but it's not going to be enough, and I know that's not going to be enough. Maybe a viral. I don't even think a viral video is enough, really. It's a great thing, and it's definitely not something that I would knock and not want. But I think that even a viral video of like 10 million views, how many users are you realistically going to get from it? And then where are those users going to be, first of all? Because this will be a location-specific app. So let's say that you are in Sweden. It doesn't matter if the video went viral in India, let's say. Because, yeah, so what if like 1,000 Indians, I don't know what you say, download the app? It doesn't really make any sense for me here in Sweden. It doesn't help me. So yeah, there's like infinite layers of complexity when it comes to marketing and getting the app off the ground. And here are things that, and I find this so like interesting to think about too, because it's like, okay, well, how do you go about that? How do you solve that problem? Because the strategy that like is most obvious would be to make shorts or TikToks, reels, those sort of videos about the app, and try to make one of those videos go viral. But then we land in the issue that I just explained, which is like, the problem that we want to solve is we want people to have people near them that are on the app. So really, it cannot just be a viral video of any kind, at least. It has to be location specific. But then the question also becomes like, are we going to make like, I don't know, 100 versions of each video in 100 different languages to try to make it go viral in each language? Maybe not. I just realized something. What we could do actually is you could test, let's say, an English. All right, maybe actually the best thing to do is to test in a language that is not spoken anywhere outside of the country. So for instance, English might actually be a bad idea to try to create viral videos about, or in, if that makes sense. Because if you create viral videos for a dating app in English, then everyone around the world will be able to, or almost everyone around the world will be able to understand what it says, which means that it could go viral in like 100 places at once. or it could go viral. Yeah, it could go viral in 100 places at once. And let's say that there's 10 million views on a video, and those are 10 million unique people as well, because that's not always the case. It could be that everyone that watched it twice, something like that. So it might not only be 5 million people, but let's say that it's 10 million people, just to make it easy. 10 million people watch a 30-second, 20-second, whatever, TikTok. What could possibly be the conversion rate on that? I'm going to assume that it's going to be lower than 10%. So 10% of 10 million people is, what is that, like 1 million people? And I think that's a high conversion rate. I think that's conversion rates that you would count on for longer form videos. But in short form videos, I'm going to assume that the conversion rate is even lower. I would assume that we would be lucky to get a 1% conversion rate on any kind of video that we make. So instead of it being 1 million people, it might be 100,000 people from a 10 million view video. Let's say that we get 100,000 users on the app. If those 100,000 users are spread over 100 countries, that means that we only have 1,000 users in each country. And we can kind of continue to extrapolate on this, because what we need is the most amount of people on the platform at the same time in the same place. So first of all, let's say that there's 1,000 users in the US. The US is ginormous. So how many states are there? Like, I don't know if it's like 52, something like that. Let's say 50. 1,000 users, 50 states, assuming even dividend, or like that it's divided up evenly, it would mean that there's like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do this. It's gonna be a lot of math here. So that would mean that there's 20 users in each state. Now, a state is also quite big, actually. So, like, how many users are there in each city? Even though we've had like a 10 million view video, and we've had even distribution of countries where these users are, or we've had a pretty high, I'm going to assume high conversion rate of 1%, and we got 100,000 users, it still means that we might only have one user per city in the end. So then the question is, or what I realized is that we actually don't want to do that, I don't think. This is still a little bit further ahead than where I'm at, but I find it interesting to talk about. I'm sort of like thinking of these things out loud and like brainstorming live right now on camera, and I figured maybe it's interesting. But what that makes me realize is that, okay, if a 10 million view video might only garner one user per city in the end, then that's not a good strategy. Like, it's not the worst strategy. It's a decent enough strategy. 100,000 users is a really good thing, but it's not really what we want. And then you start to think, okay, can we convert this? How do we do almost that Tim Ferriss, I think it's a Tim Ferriss line, like, what if I did the opposite? So instead of trying to go viral all over the world, what if we tried to not even go viral, but just get as many views as we can? Oh, that's going viral. I'm stupid. We focused on like a city, let's say. And let's say that we focus on a city where the language there isn't spoken anywhere else. So, for instance, I could focus on like Stockholm in Sweden, and I would focus the videos on being in Swedish, so that if you're not from Sweden, you're not going to be able to understand it and it's not going to make any sense. But we can make it even more niche so that we try to focus it on the city somehow. I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to assume that there's ways to do that. Essentially like hyper-specific marketing for a specific, very, very specific location to try to generate as many users as possible in that place. And so what we could do then, because I think conversion rates, it's like I don't know what you call it when it's like anti-exponential curve, that the less views you get, the more conversions, like the higher the percent of conversions is going to be. And then the more views you get, the lower that conversion is going to be. And it's going to be like probably an anti-exponential curve, if that's a thing. Because yeah, that's why usually a lot of companies, like there's a lot of Instagram profiles that have like, I don't know, 5,000 to 10,000 users. They're called like micro influencers. And a lot of companies are actually quite interested in them because of the fact that they're too small to kind of charge a like high fee. And they will usually just accept products in return for promotion, which means that the promotion for the companies is actually almost free because you're just like, hey, you can get this thing, and they already produce, like, let's say it's t-shirts, you already produce like 100,000 t-shirts a month, let's say. If you send 3 or like 100 to one influencer, it doesn't really make a huge difference. But these small influencers, they have usually more dedicated followers. So it means that the followers that do follow them, they do really listen to them. Whereas the bigger you get, the more likely it is that you're just going to have random people that follow you that are kind of curious but don't really care. It sort of takes more for someone to follow someone where they aren't that popular, or like whatever the word is when you have followers. Anyway, so what I was thinking is, what if we focus on a specific city in a specific country with a unique language, and we try to make videos for that specific area, that specific crowd? Because then, yes, we might not get 10 million views, but that's not the goal. The goal might be to get like 1,000 of our specific customers, or like the specific users that we want. We want to get 1,000 of them to look at this short TikTok video, ad, whatever it's going to be. Because we might get 10 users from that, but if we get 10 users instead of 100,000, if we get 10 users in a specific city, then that's still better than the 10 million view video is going to do for us. So, like, obviously I'm making up a lot of this stuff, I don't really know, but I think it makes a lot of sense to think of it like this instead. So, I don't even know how I got here right now, but this is the sort of stuff that I really like to think about too, and it's going to be stuff that's going to be incorporated into the rest of these videos once the app is actually published, because then we have to move into this area, like how do you get users? Because even though, like, I think it's easy to, I don't know what people think when they watch videos like this, like my videos. But I think it's easy to, I would have assumed that, like, okay, obviously he's just going to get his audience to download the app and it's going to work. But in my experience, that's not the case. It might be the case if you're making like a game or something generic that everyone can use, or not generic, but something that anyone could use that has no limitation on the type of user that you want. But again, I just realized like another added layer of complexity that could be calculated into the 10 million view video is that how many of those 10 million people are single? How many of those 10 million people are single and looking for something? How many of those 10 million people are single, looking for something, and open to using a dating app? You're just gonna it just keeps shrinking the pool of people that could be users for you. So yeah, but I have a lot of ideas actually for combating these issues, and some of them I think are really good ways. I'm saying that so skeptical, but some of the ideas I have, I do believe are really good ways to avoid some of these problems and to deal with them. But there's still a lot of unknowns, and then you also come down to the question of like, will people even want to use an app like this? I think the idea is really good, but I do have some skepticism about it myself. Even though this is like the best idea that I've ever had, just based on the fact that everyone that I talk to about it gets excited, and sometimes more excited than I am about the idea. That's never happened to me before. I'm going to tell you that much. Every app idea I've ever had, it's been like, cool, yeah, that's probably a great idea, and that's been about it for excitement. Here it's like people are like, oh, and you could do this, or you could add that, or maybe you should do that, and I think that's sort of what I'm living on right now. I'm living off of I'm sort of, that's what I'm using as fuel right now. Is I'm using the reactions of other people to the idea as reinforcement that I think this could be good if I make it right, if I polish this enough and get it right, it should be a good idea. But then, like I've said before, you come back to the question of what is a good idea and what is a good product. And those two can be very different, because a good idea might be it's sort of easy to come up with a good idea. It's just that it's very hard to figure out what is a good idea that people will actually use. Because a lot of times things sound like great ideas, but then in the end, they're just, you realize that, okay, I wouldn't even use this myself. So how could anyone else want to use this? And yeah. So I'm going to actually, one part to this that I am considering as a problem is the fact that you don't see the person to start with. Even though it's like part of the whole concept and like the whole, some part of the uniqueness of the idea is that you don't see them, you just hear them first, and you get to talk to them, and then you see the person. I also know that on dating apps in general, my experience at least is that it's like 99, or no, not 99, but like let's say 90% no, like no way, and maybe 10%, yeah, sure, I could potentially see that. And so if you think of like, okay, well, I'm going to spend time on this app and I'm going to talk to someone, and how many conversations am I going to have, where at the end of it I'm going to realize that this person, unfortunately, yes, we had a great connection talk wise, but I'm just not attracted to this person. And it won't really matter if you've had a great conversation if you're not attracted at all to the person. The problem that I sort of want to solve is the in between, where it's like you might be attracted to the person, but you're sort of not sure, so you kind of like, can't be bothered. I think there's a lot of that on dating apps where you're like, maybe, but I don't know. And the idea here is that you get to talk to them, so you kind of like get another added layer on the image of the person that you see. So then when you see the image, you actually have some context, like this is that person. I've talked to them now. But obviously that would kind of, I don't know how many of those types of conversations you'd be keen on having. Like this is, I can see this going either way. I could see it going the way of like, it would be very exciting, because it would be very exciting to have a really great conversation with someone that you then find super attractive, and you realize that we did have a connection and they like you back and you match with that person. Like that experience, I think, would be really cool, and really like, you would just move so many, like so far along in the dating game compared to matching with someone on any other dating app. Because matching with someone, you just don't know anything about them. There's nothing there yet. But here it would be, you'd already have initiated, you've already talked. So like the next thing could be meeting in real life, and that could be much more like, I think it's possible that there would be more momentum going from this. Whereas other dating apps, it can definitely become stale and like take a lot of time, and you just don't really, it's not super efficient. And but then on the other hand, it's like, how exciting is it to put that effort in to have a good conversation with someone, only to realize that, well, this is not my type at all. And I think it's fair to not have for someone not to be your type. Like, it's okay if you're attracted to people wearing red t-shirts. That's fine. And you hate if they wear green t-shirts. Like, that's completely fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it would suck for you if you've talked to like 20 people in one evening and all of them wore whatever t-shirt color I said that you didn't like. Maybe they smoke, or maybe they do something that you just like, you don't like it. And yeah, it could be whatever. And I think it would kind of suck to spend the amount of time and then to kind of come up short in the end. So, yeah. I don't know. But it's also easily fixable by just removing the blur feature. If you just remove the blur feature, then you just see the person straight away and you can decide if you want to talk to them or not. Which I think, I mean, we're going to keep the blur thing for for the first while, at least until we get some users, some real users, and we get some real feedback on how people are using the app and all that stuff. But it's very easy to remove if we feel like, okay, people don't really like to talk to someone that they don't see, or they have no idea who it is. Yeah. I mean, my mind is just racing with so many different ideas and thoughts at the same time right now, because I also think that, like, for the user maintenance, it's kind of a good feature to have the blur thing, because that would mean that, let's say that there's only 10 users on the app, 5 women, 5 men. Let's say that I'm online at the same time as all these 5 women, and I go through them and I talk to each one of them. If I see them straight away, then, and realize that I'm not attracted to this person, then it will take me like 5 seconds to go through all 5 of them. But if I if I don't see them, then it will take 5 minutes, or like however long the average time that you'll talk to someone that you don't have a connection with or have a connection with is, and you'll go through them. Maybe it'll take you an hour to go through the 5 people. So it's either 5 seconds of perceived experience on the app versus an hour of experience on the app. And that's a bit of a moral dilemma, I think, because then I think about, like, what I want to optimize for is I want to optimize for the users. But the gray area is if you do it the way where they spend very little time on the app and they just go through all the people, then they'll feel like, oh, okay, the app sucks. There were only 5 girls here and they were all unattractive, so I'm not going to use the app anymore. And maybe they haven't even talked to them. Whereas if they have to talk to them before they see them, then there only needs to be 5 women on the app for them to talk for like 25 minutes in total. So spending 25 minutes on the app. And if you spend 25 minutes on the app, you might feel like, okay, there is something here, but I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard nut to crack, that one. Because it's also like it takes a while to go through 5 people. If it takes 25 minutes to go through 5 people, and then you imagine, like, how many could you swipe through on, like, Tinder in 25 minutes? You could swipe through like hundreds, I think, in 25 minutes. If not, yeah, hundreds. And so out of those hundreds that you could swipe through on Tinder, how many would you have swiped right on? Maybe few, and maybe the goal of this app is to increase that number, to basically help people find more people that actually they would connect with. But even still, I don't know, it's hard. It's a hard problem to solve, isn't it? I'm just trying to think of like, how would you even go about this stuff? Because right now I think the Love is Blind angle is quite unique and quite relevant. It's like, it's a popular show at the moment, and I don't know when the new season is coming out, but there is a new season coming out at some point, either in the autumn, I guess, or in the spring. And one of my ideas is to kind of piggyback off of that to find ways to market the app. But the real thing is you have to compare it to what is out there, what else is out there, and like, I don't know, I like the idea that you would be forced sort of to give more people a chance, but right now it's just random people, so there's no selection process to figure out who would be good for you. If there was a selection process as well, then that would kind of be one step up for the app, because then you have a selection process of like, these are the profiles that based on interest or based on age or based on whatever fit you the best and would make sense for you. Then you have at least another layer of like, you're not just looking at random people, but again, there's so many people in the world, and it is unlikely to find someone that matches what you are looking for, and like personality wise, all that stuff. It is an unlikely equation, even though it's just look at like whatever data is out there on other dating apps, for like how many of the matches that happen on Tinder turn into dates, and how many of the dates turn into relationships or longer term dating. I think and then you compare that to not only how many of the matches, but how many of the swipes turned into all of that stuff. And if, let's say you do 1,000 swipes and one turns into a relationship, then that's odds of 1,000 to 1. And if you're on an app, I'm sort of like talking down my own app right now, but like if you're on an app like this and you talk for 5 minutes to each person, how long would it take you to find that one person out of 1,000? You'd have to do 1,000 calls with people. So that's 1,000 times 5 minutes, which 1,000 times 5 minutes. How many hours is that? 5,000 minutes. So that's 80 hours. 40 hours. So that's like two full-time 2 weeks of full-time work, and then you'd find the one. Is that reasonable? And that's based on like made up stats that I have no idea. It could be that like 5,000 swipes turns into one relationship. So but then the hidden metric, I guess, is that hasn't been tested before, is yes, maybe 1,000 swipes will turn into one relationship, but maybe 1,000 swipes, 900 was no swipes. Whereas if you would have talked to them, maybe it would have been like 500 no swipes and 500 right swipes, or 500 no's, 500 yeses. In which case the odds, that's what we want to do. We want to even out the odds a little bit so that we help people find people better. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense, but I think that could be a potential of the phone calls. And then the thing is like, do we want to remove that? Meaning, do we want to remove the blur feature so that you see the person straight away? Okay, either way, we don't have to decide this stuff right now, because I could do like half a year of promotions and marketing and blah, 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 and pushing for the blind dating type of feature that I have, until I would probably be satisfied with like, okay, this is not the way to go, we need to switch. Because I think there is something to it. It's just that we need to figure it out. Because what I want to avoid is, if we do show the picture straight away, then maybe a lot of people won't even like say anything on the phone. They will just swipe to the next one if they feel like the person is not attractive. And that's fair, I think. But the other option, or the other way, there's a million ways that people could interact with the app, but I think the main two would be okay, here are the two options. Blur the face to start with, so you don't know who you're talking to. The other option is show the face straight away, so you straight away know this is who I'm talking to, and you can skip to the next one if you want to, within like a second. Those are the two options. And I think the blur option is the one that we're going with right now. But let's say the option of like, what if you see the person straight away? Then I think it boils down to, even though there's like lots of ways that people could interact with that type of app, I think it would boil down to two options. Either people start just swiping away straight away, like they just skip to the next one as soon as they see that, okay, this is not someone that I want to talk to. Or they at least say hi, or like they say something, they like exchange a few sentences before skipping. That might be the case. And if that is the case, then that might be enough to hook someone, essentially, like to keep someone there. So even though I see them straight away and I feel like they're not attractive, and I say something and maybe they say something funny back, the conversation might already have hooked me enough to kind of stay in it for a little bit longer. And that might lead to X, Y, and Z. Like that could lead to me at the end of it, like matching with that person, let's say. But the other thing is also that it could just lead to swiping next straight away, which wouldn't be too good, I don't think. And there's also things that we could do. We could implement features into the app, like, I don't know. I wanted to say it, but I'm going to not say it yet, because I feel like that's a unique idea and it could be used. And it's something that I've thought of before. Anyway, let's replicate these promotional images for the iPad as well. Okay, so I think we're actually, we could add it for review. Yeah, let's just send it in for review and hope. Unable to add to review. The items below are required. You must select primary category. You must set up content rights, app information. You must enter privacy policy. You must provide copyright information. Okay, where do I do all of this? Okay, I can actually show this. It's like I'm just going through over and over again all these like things about sensitive data. And everything is just collected in the same way. No, we're not using it for tracking purposes. Photos or videos, it's for app functionality. Yes, they're connected to the identity of the user. No, we don't use them to track. All right, now I think we can add it for review. But I have almost no hope that this will be approved. But either way, it'll take up to 48 hours to be reviewed, and you'll get an email. When the review is complete. Okay, at least it's been sent in for review. Again, like I said, I have almost no hope that this will come back approved, but so I'm really trying to mentally like prepare for a response that will be, oh, you need to do this, or this didn't work, or this is not approved, or you did this wrong. But that means that we're now moving into the next phase, which is going to be to get it approved, because at some point we're going to get it approved. It's just a matter of like how long is this going to take. It's frustrating that the approval time is 48 hours, which means that I might have to wait 2 days between each approval or each review. But we won't quit. We'll keep going, and at some point it will be approved. It's just a matter of continuing. You just, like I have said before, the power of just not stopping is strong. So that's what we're going to do. We're just not going to stop. And we're not going to let them disapprove it. At some point, they're going to have to approve. But yeah, I'm mentally really preparing for like a tough few weeks probably of this process of trying to get it completed or approved. But I'm very much looking forward to it being approved, because then it's very exciting, because then it's live. People can download it and use it, and we can start promoting it. I think. I'm not sure. I realized that I might need to add a payment system before promoting it for real, because I need to be able to afford phone calls for users, which I won't afford if everything aligns, if the universe is on my side and everyone starts downloading this app and using it, I will run out of minutes very quickly, and so I need some sort of system to stop people from... I already have a system to stop people from overusing minutes, but I also need a system to pay for minutes. So that's going to be something that we do need to implement to make the app more robust and like ready. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one, which will be on Monday. And by that time, I hope that... What is it today? Yeah, I hope that it will have been approved by the next video that I do, but or not approved, but at least we'll have the result of this review in, and we can start dealing with bugs again. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.